Hi, my name is Michael.G and have another video for you today. And now we are going to Proverbs. And the question for the video and how we're going to answer it is, why should you read Proverbs? And if you have some of these New Testament Bibles only, they usually include Proverbs and Psalms in it. And it's really interesting to have Proverbs in there, and we're going to find out why when we just read just the first chapter. But the thing about Proverbs is there's so much in there that even now, to make this video, I said, let me just read a few verses of chapter 1, because my preparation for the videos is pretty much what you're looking at right here, like a clean sheet of paper. Maybe I pull out a couple of verses here and there, and not all, and pretty much everything's off the cuff. But because I'm living and breathing this information all the time, it's at my fingertips. So how do you live and breathe the information all the time? Well, you read over and over. Would recommend everyone read the Bible from cover to cover. Absolutely. And if you can't read it cover to cover, then at least read the first 4 Gospels, the New Testament, and Proverbs. And of course you can go to, Psalms as well. But I always loved Proverbs. And in reading Proverbs, I must have read Proverbs from beginning to end well over 50 times. At least 50 times. It's like I can't even count anymore. And even though I had read it 50 times, now to do this video, it was astonishing when I read chapter 1. Because the first chapter in Proverbs pretty much sums up the entire Bible. It sums up the Old Testament, the New Testament, and Genesis, and what happened in the garden. And we're going to go through it, time permitting, maybe finished on this. So, Proverbs 1:1. Proverbs of Solomon. Now, and it tells us who Solomon is. Solomon is son of David, king of Israel. Now remember, Jesus is son of God, king of Israel, not king of the Jews. We've went over this, so just want you to understand there's a big difference between Jews and Israel as the Bible defines us. For knowing wisdom and instruction, for understanding sayings of intelligence, for receiving the instruction of wisdom, righteousness, judgment, and uprightness. From Proverbs 1 to 3, it's telling us what you're going to get. It's already telling us what you're going to get. Now, who's it for? For giving to simple ones prudence, to a youth knowledge and discretion. The wise doth hear. Now, not everybody here. Look at this. Who's going to hear? The wise doth hear, and increaseth in learning, and the intelligent doth obtain counsels. Okay? The Bible is our counselor. For understanding a proverb and its sweetness, words of the wise, and their acute sayings. Now, like this is a sharp saying. The word of God cuts to the bone, divides. It's like a sword. That's why the word W-O-R-D is in the word sword, the sword of the Spirit. So, acute sayings. 7. Now, what's the first thing after 7? Fear of Jehovah. Remember, Jehovah is I am. Fear of I am is the beginning of knowledge. Wisdom and instruction fools have despised. So, fear of I am. Fear of Jehovah, Yahweh. Hear, my son. Now remember, we're directed at who? The wise doth hear and increases learning, and intelligence doth obtain counsel. Okay, the wise. Okay, so who's this person? Hear, my son, the instruction of thy father, and leave not the law of thy mother. Now, the law of thy mother is like the commandments of men. Not the commandments of men. Like, you got to remember, when Jesus came, he told us we have two laws. Love the Lord thy God and your brother. The thing is, when we're in the light of God, we're not going to be caught up in the regular laws that everybody else is caught up in, because we have already died and they were nailed to the cross. So in our new existence, our is to give light is our burden. Like, to talk about the light. That's the law. Because if you love the Lord thy God, then you love the light. Hear, my son, the instruction of thy father, and leave not the law of thy mother. For a graceful wreath they are thy head, and chains to thy neck. Now remember, you're stuck with it. And the thing is that the difference between being of God and not being of God is, if you're of God, the laws are actually benefit you to good. When you're not of God, they're going to be judging you all the time and like pulling the rug out from under you. My son, now here comes now. It's talking about the law, talking about the graceful wreath up to thy head, and chains to thy neck. And what's the first thing it does now? It's going to talk to you about the serpent in the garden. My son, if sinners entice thee, be not willing. If they say, come with us, we lay wait for blood. Isn't that what the serpent did with Eve? Went to the vulnerable part of Adam and Eve. We watch secretly for the innocent without cause. We swallow them as Sheol alive, and whole as those going down the pit. Every precious substance we find, we fill our houses, spoil. Thy lot thou dost not cast among us. One purse is to all of us. My son, go not in the way of them. Withhold thy foot from their path. Right here, it's telling you, don't fall for the enticing words of the serpent. And in another place in Proverbs, it talks about that for the harlot. Now it's going to define what happens. For their feet, now keep in mind, I had said this in videos before, the feet represent your spirit. Because the spirit moves, and so your feet is like your feet grow out of your spirit. For their feet to evil do run, and they haste to shed blood. Of course, blood. Like do you ever hear the thing blood money? When people do things, they do things for blood money. Surely in vain is the net spread out before the eyes of any bird. Okay, this is what they do, and they for their own blood lay wait. They watch secretly for their own lives. So the paths of every gainer of dishonest gain, the life of its owners it taketh. You see, they're going to fall upon their own wickedness. That's why if you look now, everybody in the media is lying so much about the things happening. It's like unbelievable, like lying wonders. Like, how can these people lie about facts? Like, my favorite one was the city was burning, and the guy says it's a peaceful protest. Or the "Let's Go Brandon" thing, when that's not what they were saying in the crowds cheering. So they're taking an objective reality and the truth, and they're twisting it for their own purposes. Wisdom in an out place crieth aloud. In broad places she giveth forth her voice. At the head, see, wisdom in an out place, outside. I'll do a study on the out place one day. It's really interesting. At the head of the multitudes she calleth, in the openings of the gates. In the city her sayings she saith. Till when, ye simple, do ye love simplicity, and have scorners their scorning desired, and do fools hate knowledge? Turn back at my reproof, lo, I pour forth to you my spirit. I make known my words with you. See, as you come closer to the truth and start living in truth, the Spirit of truth pours into you more. Now, of course, that's something that God's working in you, and that's what the salvation is for we come to the knowledge of God. Because I have called and ye refuse, I stretched out my hand and none is attending. And ye slight at my counsel, and my reproof ye have not desired. I also, now listen to this is really big. I also in your calamity do laugh. I deride when your fear cometh. You see, when you're not with God, and you're following your own will or your own identity, then what will end up in the end is that God's going to be laughing at you, and He don't care at that point. He just doesn't care. See, I deride when your fear cometh. Same thing with Elijah on Mount Carmel. He says, is your God like sleeping? Is He far away? He was joking. When your fear cometh as destruction, and your calamity as a hurricane doth come, when on you come adversity and distress, then they call me, and I do not answer. They seek me earnestly and find me not. See, God's like, yeah, you're on your own now. See, when you're following your will, your I, and you're doing something wrong. When you know you're doing something wrong, eventually that's going to lead you to death. They seek me earnestly and find me not, because that they have hated knowledge, and the fear of Jehovah have not chosen. They have not consented to my counsel. They have despised all my reproof. And look what's happening now, even in the United States. If you notice this big push, the United States was founded as a Christian nation, named. And all the Christian nations that were named Christian nations were actually prosperous. But now they've turned their back on God, and look, you could see hell descending. I could see hell descending on the United States. I mean, I totally see it. It's unbelievable. And they eat of their fruit of their way, see? And they eat the fruit of their way, their own identity, their own will. And from their own counsels they are filled. This is similar than the guy who went to pray and the tax gatherer, and he glorified himself in his will, what he did, and he even snubbed the tax gatherer, and the tax gatherer said, God be my propitiation, my covering, because he realizes that he can't come and stand before God. He needed Jesus to cover him. For the turning of the simple slayeth them, and the security of the foolish destroyeth them. And whoso is hearkening to me dwelleth confidently and quiet from fear of evil. You see, when Proverbs itself, now I just read that, or we just read that now together, but in reading that together now, it's going to make an impact on you. It might not be now, this moment. It's kind of like storing food for a day that you don't have that much to eat, and that's what reading the Bible does. It stores the information like you're putting it into the mind's hard drive, and what ends up happening is one day something's going to happen, and you're going to remember this, and then you're going to go back to that one point, and then it's going to be amazing. And that's what Proverbs will give you. Proverbs will teach you about people. And, last I checked, we still need people. We'll teach you about people. We'll guide you to inspect fruit. Because a lot of people talk about, what they're going to do, what they say, but then you see the fruit of you see the fruit of their life, the fruit of the Spirit that is manifested in everything around them. Like the person that's smoking is telling you, don't smoke as they puff the cigarette. So now you could see that their words are vain because they're smoking. Why couldn't they stop smoking? And this is what you're going to get from Proverbs. Now, some people say, why do you read the YLT? Young's Little Translation. There are other translations that are easier to understand. Well, the thing is, who said that your will is able to comprehend? Your will is not what gives understanding. It does not. Understanding comes from God and the Spirit within you. And depending on the Spirit you have within you, you will understand the words differently. And like I said earlier, I haven't read Proverbs I'd say I haven't read that verse, maybe that chapter, maybe, I don't know, a year right now. And now I had found stuff in there that I didn't even believe that was in there before. And it was really in the first chapter telling us everything from Genesis to, it shows us the serpent so we can crush its head. Right in the beginning it tells us, and what our pitfalls will be when we deal with them. You see, we are led by our will, or we are led by God's Spirit. Okay? And that's like my other video. You can't serve God and mammon. The will is always going to glorify and justify the I. This is the entire purpose. This is the flawed purpose of the will. I. The parable about the mote in thy brother's eye. Yeah, look at that. That's the mote. And that's the beam. This is an I-beam. The Bible was written thousands of years ago. The word I, the original, the Greek word for I, remember the New Testament is, in Greek, is ego, or ego. That's I. But this is how we draw I today. This rendering that we're looking at now, God knew that this is where we were going to end up with this, or this is the way He set it up. That we have a lowercase I and an I-beam I. This is also the rich man with this I. If you don't believe this, listen carefully to how people speak that have more power, more wealth, whatever. They can't stop saying the word I. Even in their text messages, you can't imagine how many times someone would use the word I in a conversation. And it's not necessary. It's not necessary. Remember, fear of Jehovah. What's Jehovah? Yahweh. I am. We have to have the fear of I am. We do not want to separate ourselves, because whenever you say the word I, it's a separation. I did this today. I did that today. It's a separation. So if you're separating yourself, then you're separating yourself, like, in a sense, like God. That's why rich and powerful people use the word I all the time. That's why this guy made fun of this guy, the mote. Why? Because he has a small I. Now, I've had a video on this as well, a long time back. But this is an analogous understanding. And the whole Bible is analogous. It's giving us the ability to compare spiritual with spiritual. Now, why is that important? Because compare the spiritual of the Bible to you or everything else around you. This This is what's going to help us see better, see clearer, so that when we do come across that serpent, we can step on it. It says it right in the beginning. It talks about the serpent. So Proverbs has a lot of information in there, and even even Jesus references Solomon. In the New Testament, greater than Solomon is here. The Queen was Solomon. It's here. I gotta find it. And Jesse and David begat it. And I said to you that even. That's an interesting point too. Jesus said, "And I say unto you that even Solomon in all his glory was arrayed as one of these. And if the herb of the field that today is and tomorrow is cast in the furnace, God doth so clothe, how much more you, O ye of little faith." He's talking about the lilies of the field. Solomon, greater than Solomon, is here. And that's another point where the wisdom of Jesus, greater queen, Luke queen. Where is it? Okay, I gotta find this now. I'm sorry, but this is, you know how you get someplace and you kind of gotta find it. All right, let's start from John. Consider the lilies, queen of the south. Oh yeah. Okay, a queen of the south. This is Luke 11:31. A queen of the south shall rise up in the judgment with men of this generation, and shall condemn them, because she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon. And lo, greater than Solomon here. So the wisdom of Jesus is greater than Solomon, and yet with that, when you read Proverbs in light of Jesus and the light, it gives you better understanding. The whole Bible is to bring the children of God into perfection. And that's the purpose. And Proverbs is a very condensed place that goes line after line, and really like tremendous wisdom there. And like I said, I had read it over 50 times. I can't even, I'm not even sure how many times I've read it. But you can bounce around. Here's another place. There's another verse I used to like in Proverbs. Doth not wisdom call, and understanding give forth her voice? Doth not wisdom call, and understanding give forth her voice? It's like when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Or when the master is ready, the student appears. So when we are coming to the point where we're going to where God has worked us over, that we're going to start telling the truth and being more in the truth, then things in our life will change. We are going to be led more and more into truth. Your relationships will change. If you're a man and a woman and you've had trouble with the relationship, if it's going to improve, it will. And if it's not supposed to improve, it will separate. Because when people have relationships, they are not because two consenting adults, like the man and the woman, are really together, but they could be their character defenses. A character defense is like a fake persona. And that's what a fake persona is. So if you have a fake persona as a male, then you will attract the woman that will keep you in that prison. And vice versa. If you have a fake persona as the woman, you will find the person that will keep you in your prison. What Proverbs does is that if that fake relationship exists, it will bring you out of your fake character defense and bring you into your reality, who you are, the real, the real, not the fake, not the character defense. And the real person is going to realize, or they're not going to be attracted or have anything in common with the other person. Or when you're in your real self, the true self, then you will seek someone who is like-minded, like-spirited. And Proverbs helps straighten this out. And that's another part of Proverbs. But I hope this video helps. God bless. And I hope you pick up Proverbs and read it. It won't take that long. And just read it, run through it. Because you're going to store the information inside you. And later you might go read it again. I've read it over 50 times. And just reading the first chapter, right before making this video, there was a lot in there that I couldn't believe, that I didn't remember. And then it brought it to my attention. And it brought it to my attention today to make this video. God bless.